Sitting-itis and Text Neck. So we're going to be talking a lot about posture on this show, and most of us sit for work now. We sit too much and we're on our phones. We're going to be diluting some of the effects on that with the recommendations I'm going to give you here. A lot of that is going to try to prevent chronic pain. I've done shows on chronic pain. I'll be doing more shows on chronic pain. Altering the way that you sit and managing that better, altering the way that you're on your phone is something else we need to pay attention to help us reduce chronic pain, arthritis, wear and tear of our spine, irritation to our discs, neck and back pain, and so forth, right? Now, as a reminder, changing the way that we sit and using our phone is only one way to address chronic pain. We know that a lot of it is spinal upkeep, regular chiropractic care. I have all those shows and all that information on my YouTube page. You can always look back and look at that. We know that dietary choices has an effect on systemic inflammation and therefore how much pain we have or how much arthritis we have. We know that the omega-6, omega-3 fat ratio, or if you will, inflammatory fats to anti-inflammatory fats, has an effect. I've done shows and newsletters on that. We'll be exploring that in the future. Vitamin D level plays a role in inflammation. Get your vitamin D level checked and make sure that comes up. General physical exercise has a huge component. We're going to interject that into our sitting management in just a moment. So regular physical exercise, huge component in this. Lack of sleep. Lack of sleep goes into stress. Stress goes into chronic inflammation and pain, so we need to pay attention to that. And then, of course, what we're going to talk about now is too much sitting and too much text neck. Now, Judy Foreman wrote a book called A Nation in Pain, and in there she just reminded us that 1 out of 2 American adults in the United States has chronic pain. So there's about 238 million American adults. 116 million of them have chronic pain. Some of it is due to sitting too much and the sitting position, which we're going to talk about. That's an amazing statistic. Okay. So the first thing, let's look at sitting. We're going to look at sitting now. We all do this, myself included. I'm just as bad as everybody else, so we need to pay attention. So this is a little too low. This is not a real scenario, but that's okay. It still makes the point. If we're on our computer, if we're on a laptop, if we're sitting and working, whatever it is we're doing, if we're in this position here, then we need to change this. Because if you're like this 8 or 10 hours a day, we're going to have a difficulty trying to undo that. So the most important thing that we can do with sitting is, number one, be aware. Be aware that the sitting position is really harming us. Now, you're not going to be able to sit like this in front of the computer or the laptop perfectly all day long. It's not going to happen. I know that we can't do that. I do it for a while, and then we just find that we sink, because this is the natural tendency, okay? So just awareness is going to do that. Secondly, frequent breaks. And you have to have these breaks that are set in your schedule. I recommend every 20 minutes. You have something go off. Set your phone to go off every 20 minutes. Set a calendar on your computer, on your PC, to go off every 20 minutes. That reminds you that you have to get up and you have to get out of the chair. Here's the key. Now, a lot of my patients will tell me, I take the walks to the printer. I make sure I go to the bathroom. I'm going to drink more water, and when I drink more water, I have to go to the bathroom more. And all of that is good because you're going to get up and you're going to walk around, and that's wonderful. But now we have to take care of our spine. So when you take breaks, you're going to put in these purposeful stretches at each break. Here's an example. Your 20-minute alarm goes off, you get up, and then you have to do a stretch, okay? You learn these stretches from me on my prior shows. What I want you to do is review that. Go to my YouTube page and you're going to learn all the stretches again. And I'm not the only one that has stretches out there. There's thousands of videos with lots and lots of beneficial stretches. So here's one that you could do. If you can stand up from your work desk and then do some twists. Maybe you do 4 or 5 of these, slow and easy, okay? Maybe you do one of these extension stretches that you've learned from me where you pull the shoulders down and back. You pull the neck up. Notice I'm not hypercurving my lower back. I didn't swing back like this. I did the shoulders and the chin, and you hold that for 5 or 10 seconds, and then you're back to work. And you do that thing. That's your first break. 20 minutes later, your alarm goes off or the PC goes off, you get up again. Purposeful break. Set the spine up nice and tall. Now you bend side to side. And maybe you do 5 of these each side. If you want to, you can stretch over to the side and hold for a few seconds. Stretch over to the other side and hold for a few seconds, right? And then, because this one is so important, maybe you add a few seconds of this in here as well. Again, shoulders down and back, chin goes up comfortably, no pain now, never into pain, never to the point of pain. You just pull this back and hold 5 or 10 seconds. There you go. There's break 2. Back to work you go with awareness. Now, when you get back into your position, take note that, okay, why don't I just hold this upright posture for another 30 seconds or a minute as best I can until you get busy, then you're on the phone, you're in knee deep in something here, and then you forget and you start sinking down. On the hour, so this will be your 3rd break in that hour, on the hour, take a little bit of a longer break. Patients of mine that either have an office where they can get on the floor, or there's an empty office or conference room, or they're in a place that encourages this kind of thing where you can go and stretch. Some people have an exercise room that they can go to. If you have the ability to get on the floor and do some of the floor stretches, do it. So here's the hour break. Your alarm goes off, your calendar goes off telling you to take a break, then you hit the floor. And you do some of our favorites on the floor. So you might take a longer break here and you do some knee rolls. Okay? You gently do your knees side to side like this. Okay? Slow and easy. Maybe you do 5 of these. Maybe you do 10. And if this is going to be your longer break and the time that you're on the floor, maybe you pull in your knee to your chest like this and hold for 5 or 10 seconds. Try the other one. 5 or 10 seconds. Okay? Maybe you do a bridge. I'm going to show you my version of bridge. My version of bridge is, notice how I'm not lifting up all that high. I have my feet far away from me, and my toes are pointing up. They're not flat, so my toes are pointing up like this, okay? So you might hold that for 5 or 10 seconds. There it is. You might want to sit up and do a couple of hamstring stretches. Some people like a forward bend like this. If this doesn't bother your lower back, you do it with a nice tall posture. I'm not super flexible, so I'm not really going any further than this. Some people are more flexible, you're going to go down more. Some can't go past here, it doesn't matter. You just go a little bit forward and stretch out your hamstrings. One of my favorite stretches for the lower back and the hip area is to stretch the rear end muscles. So you can do this one where you cross one foot over the other leg if you can, and then you bring your knee across your body like this. Such a good stretch for lower back and hips. And then you hold this with a nice upright tall spine. So maybe this 1 hour break, the break on the hour, is a minute long. And you stretch out the other side like this. And then you're done. Back to work you go. So you hop up back to your desk. Now again, you've just stretched your spine. Maybe it's time to pull yourself up really tall, and then you do this for a half a minute or another minute or so until we forget and go back to the slouching position. You see? So what we're doing here is we're trying to undo that nasty postural thing that we all get when we're sitting. For some of us, if you cannot get out of the chair at the moment, I do something that's called tall wall or tall like a wall. So maybe every 10 minutes, an alarm goes off, which reminds you to pull up really tall. Now when you do this, imagine just like a dancer, the string is going through your spine and pulling up nice and tall like this, okay? So your shoulders are actually coming down, your head is going towards the sky, and you pull up really, really tall. When you're doing this exercise, you should feel the muscles in here really working, right in the center part of the middle back. If you're feeling these muscles working, you're doing it right. And I want you to practice this one as well. You don't need a wall behind you to do this. I'm just using that as a metaphor. But when you get used to this exercise, you can see I can get right there. The shoulders come down, the head goes up. They almost go in different directions, if you will. And then you pull up tall and try to hold that as long as you can. And then 20 minutes in, you're up again to do some stretches. 30 minutes in, you pull up tall like a wall. 40 minutes in, you get up and you're doing stretches again. 50 minutes in, you're pulling up tall like a wall for 30 seconds or a minute. And then at the hour, you go and do a longer stretch session if that's available to you. Does that make sense? So what you're doing is you're taking frequent breaks to get out of the chair, frequent breaks to get out. That's the key thing. And if you do that, that's really important. Even if you get out to walk and you're not going to do a stretch, just to get out and move around is what the critical thing is, to really move. What a lot of my patients do is at lunchtime, in the middle of their day, is before or after lunch, they'll take a 5 or 10 minute walk. It might not be a walk that's going to really get up your heart rate, but it's a walk enough that's going to move your body and spine and hips and feet and knees around enough to do that. So if you start moving around, that's going to just get that body fluid again and flexible. If you don't have a place to walk, particularly in bad weather, if you have a stairway in the building that you work at, go up and down a couple of flights of stairs just to move the body. Maybe you could do a stairway break 3 times during the workday. A couple of hours into work, you go do a couple flights of stairs for a few minutes. Then at lunch, you do it a few more times, and then in the middle part of the afternoon, you go to the stairway and go up and down a few more times. There you go. All of that counts. It's the little tiny breaks during the day that really matters. I've told this story before where I had a computer programmer come in to see me 20 years ago. And he had chronic neck and back pain. And he said, Dr. Fuller, I take a 2-minute break every hour and I move around the office and I go for a walk. And I said, that's a wonderful thing. But he said, at the end of the day, my neck and back really hurt. I said, no problem. I want you to take that 2-minute break that you're doing and let's have you do 45 seconds every 20 minutes. Okay, so he did that. He took about the same amount of break time, but he just made it more frequent and made all the difference in the world. And that's the key. If you work in a company that I've spoken to and all of you have been aware of the importance of taking breaks, one of the things you can do is encourage each other to take breaks to stretch, right? You can nudge the person in the cubby next to you and say, hey, did you do your stretching break? Or it's 20 minutes in, somebody alerts everybody around them, time to get up and stretch. Whatever it is, make it fun. Send little texts and emails to each other to make sure that you're all getting up. When I'm working with someone that's in a company that is not aware of this and they don't encourage that, it's almost like they feel as though they have to do the stretches in private, right? They'll literally go to the bathroom and do their stretches, or they'll make sure nobody's looking and they're doing their twists or whatever. We want to get past that. We want to encourage everybody to do these things so it doesn't seem weird or odd anymore that people are literally on the floor doing some stretches during the day. It's all good stuff. Now, standing desks are a really hot topic now, standing desks, right? So stand-up desks make sense to me if you have the option to be like this as opposed to like this all the time, right? Just sitting here like this. I've written a lot of prescriptions for stand-up desks. A lot of my patients have done it and they said it really was a game changer in helping their neck and their back. So when you're at a stand-up desk, you could stand like this for a while. What I have found is everyone is different. No surprise, everyone is different. Some people like to sit 50-50 and stand. Sit and stand is 50-50. Some people, when they get the stand-up desk, literally they're standing 90% of the time and they're sitting 10%. If you do have that option, just play with it. What I like is the ones that can go up and down quickly is you have the option. You can sit, gosh, for 10 minutes. And then you can stand for 20 minutes or whatever that ratio is. It's going to keep you moving more frequently, and I love that. I think that's wonderful. There are other options too. Some people have the ball chairs that move around a little bit. Some people have literally just the exercise balls that are not connected to anything, and they're sitting on those and they're always constantly moving around. And there's all kinds of devices, those air-filled discs that you can sit on, which is a kind of like an intermediary between having a chair, putting on an air-filled disc, and then you sit on that and you're allowed to move around and keep that lower back and the discs moving and the joints moving and so forth. The key is motion. The human spine is all about motion. So that's managing the sitting position, okay? Frequent breaks, think of every 20 minutes, get up and do some purposeful stretches. Maybe on the hour, you hit the floor and do some stretches on the floor if you like those. Maybe on the 10 minutes, on the 10-minute, you do the tall wall, and on the 20 minutes, you stand up and do your stretches. Follow? Making those breaks happen is just so critical, and encourage each other to do that. Okay. The next subject is the phone. And so we all have these. As you can see, I have one too. And these are just so prevalent now. Here's what happens, right? We've talked a little bit about this in the future, but the management is similar to the sit-down desk. Now, we have a 13-pound bowling ball that 13-pound bowling ball is on the little tiny popsicle stick here. If it's in the center of the teeter-totter, you have the least amount of stress to hold it up there. The neck is much more comfortable. The joints and the discs, which we're worried about, is much better. As soon as that comes forward 15 degrees, you're talking like 20 or 25 pounds. 30 degrees is doubling the weight. When you get to 60 degrees forward, it's 60 pounds of relative work and irritation on the discs and joints in your neck. 60 pounds, okay? Now, how many times do we see people on their phone like this? It happens all day long, myself included. I'm just as guilty. I see myself here a lot. I'm like, what am I doing? And I pull myself up and start doing it this way, right? That's the first thing, is just to be aware. Start getting this phone up here. If you're, I don't know, how does everybody type with two thumbs? I can't do that. But anyways, some people are typing fast with two thumbs. Do it up here like this. Or you can type with one finger really slowly like I do, like so, okay? Try to get this phone up here as much as you can. And set up down here. That's really going to be a lot of stress. There's been a lot of research on what's going to be happening because teenagers and people in their 20s that have had phones their entire lives are on the phone a lot. It's multiple hours a day. The average high school student, we now know, is like 8 hours a day on their phone. So that's 8 hours if they're like this. And we've all seen this kind of thing too, right? Where we're just kind of in this position and that head is forward for hours at a time. We really need to start encouraging them to change that if we can. Okay, so just encourage and lead by example. That's the idea with text neck. So teaching kids these stretches in the beginning too, because they're going to be on phones for the rest of their lives. They're going to be on laptops. They're going to be on computers and so forth. We need to start to educate them now the importance of posture. No surprise to you, I have kids that are brought into my office now that are already having chronic, we're talking teenagers with chronic neck and back pain that they've had for years, from backpacks, but from the study position and text neck. All of that is contributing to this situation. So we need to get kids now starting to be aware of the importance of stretching, even if it's 30 seconds in the morning before they rush off to school. And then when they get back from school, maybe they do a full session of the stretches for about 2 minutes. And when I have kids do, when they're doing long-term studying and they're doing some things on their phone or they're on a laptop or an iPad or something like that, is they'll take a break. The same breaks that we talked about, the sitting breaks earlier. Every 20 minutes they're getting up and they're doing a purposeful stretch for 20 or 30 seconds. I also teach them that doing those stretches is going to re-engage their brain. It's all about the brain. When you're taking care of your spine, your posture, and your motion and flexibility, you're stimulating those very powerful nerve endings that are buried in the tissues of your spine, which fire your brain, that make your brain work. That's why when you see lots of people when they get older like this, their brain's not working so great. So when you're taking care of your spine, you're taking care of your brain, you're taking care of your organs, and we also know that you're going to live longer and live better. That's the importance of sitting management and trying as best we can to avoid text neck. I'm Dr. Scott Fuller. Please join me again.